What? All right, here we go. All right, awesome. Aren't you guys glad to have a nice rainy morning? I am. My my tomatoes are coming in good, peppers, all that stuff, and the rain's good. I don't have to water it. Plus, rainy days for me, I don't know about you guys, it kind of gives you an excuse to think of little indoor things you just want to do. You know what I mean? It gives you a chance to stay inside and, huh? Yeah, whatever, anything, Like in my case, it's catching up on paperwork or bills or whatever it is, stuff that I get away from because the weather's so nice. I feel like I have to always be outside doing stuff. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to church today, Sunday school. I love Sunday school, as I've said a million times, and it's my first opportunity to bring a lesson. But I love Sunday school, even though it's usually there's never as many people in Sunday school as there is in church. I think Sunday school is kind of like my favorite part of church. I don't know why. I just enjoy just kind of discussing. So today, what I want to do is it's a follow up to last week's lesson, which Mike brought. I think Joash, right? Was it Joash? Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about Hezekiah. So we're going to look at some. This thing, does it seem like it's too loud? It sounds like it to me, but anyways, we're going to be looking at Hezekiah. So this is kind of part of like a long line of kings back in those days. That a lot of those kings were bad. Some of them were good. Joash was good for a while, but then he went bad, and part of it was one of his advisors. He stopped. I think he died. Was it Henarab? Was his name? He. I forgot his name. Yeah, he died, and then Joash kind of went astray in terms of who he was taking his advice from. You know what I mean? And then he started kind of going bad, which is easy to do. You know what I mean? You see it all the time, and we talked about it last week. I think I made a comment during Sunday school about it. But so back in those days, there was like when I look at these Sunday school lessons, I look when Rafal teaches. Rafal is like a professor. Okay, Rafal is like literally could be a college professor with how smart he is and the way he's able to teach. I have to break it down in a way that, first of all, I need to understand it in a simple way so that I can teach it in a way that it makes sense to me and hopefully makes sense to other people. So, anyways, there was two kingdoms. There was like a northern and a southern kingdom back in those days. Okay, um, what we're going to be looking at today is going to be focused on both kingdoms because they were both involved in what we're going to be looking at today. So there was the northern kingdom, which was became Assyria, I believe, and there was a guy there who came to taunt and harass Hezekiah, who was at that time the king of the southern kingdom, which was Judah, right? Joe's like keep. So, anyways, it's an interesting lesson. So, what was Hezekiah's father? I know anybody but Joe can answer this. What was what was Hezekiah's father's name? 4 letters. Begins with an A. Huh? Ahaz. Did somebody say that? Okay. Ahaz. Now Ahaz was a guy. He was a bad king because, and you know why he was bad? What Ahaz did wrong was what made Ahaz a bad king was this. Was even though he was a king over a powerful country, he instead of depending on God to lead, he kind of started to make a deal with the enemy. He started to kind of deal treacherously with the enemy, paying them tribute for protection, basically, instead of depending on God. So because of doing that, then he kind of became in a league with these bad guys, and all that kind of took place at a time when they ended up getting defeated. And then you guys have heard a lot about this whole carrying away of people and stuff like that to foreign lands. He was in power around the time all that kind of stuff was happening. So he has a bad legacy. Ahaz does, but Ahaz's son is Hezekiah. Hezekiah saw God in how he led. And one of the first things he did, we're going to look at some scriptures here shortly, but one of the things he did was he restored proper worship in the temple. That was one of the things Hezekiah did. And he tried to get away from the whole system that was in place of paying tribute to the Assyrians for protection. So he was trying to get away from all that. So, because obviously it's a very corrupt system when you do that. It's like when you picture the United States or other countries paying tribute to other countries just for protection, or you can even look at it like this: like if you're a store in mob territory and you're paying them protection money, kind of thing. You know what I mean? You're kind of it corrupts you. All right, so let me see here. Another person we're going to look at in our lesson today, who has a very pivotal place in today's lesson is Isaiah. The prophet Isaiah is involved today. We've heard a lot about him, and there's a whole book of Isaiah. He was a prophet. How long was Isaiah instrumental in the Old Testament? Approximately. Anybody have any idea how long he was like a factor in the Old Testament? About roughly 10 years, 20 years, about 50 years. About 50 years. All right, so I want to look at a couple scriptures just to kind of set things up real quick in a couple short. Can I get two volunteers? One will be 2 Kings 16, 1 through 4. That's only 4 verses. And then still in 2 Kings 16, 5 through 9. I just want to set us up today, set up our lesson a little bit with those scriptures here. Let me find it myself. I meant to bookmark it before I came here today, but I just got sidetracked. Okay, 2 Kings 16. This is just to kind of give a quick lay some foundation a little bit about who we're talking about today. Anybody? Joe, which one do you want to do? You're going to do the first one? 1 through 4? Okay. Okay, so did you pick up on that verse 3 where so he got so tied in with the the enemy that he was actually participating in their rituals. You know, see where it says in verse 3 where he had his own son pass through the fire, which is basically like a religious ritual, and I'm assuming they died. I don't know what I don't see where that it says it here, but it's almost like he sacrificed his own sons to these false gods. Um, sacrifice, burn incense, all that kind of stuff. So this is just giving you a picture of who Ahaz was. And then let's see, 5 through 9. I don't know if anybody. So verses 5 through 9. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll just skip that. Just basically talking about how he was paying tribute to them, to the king of Syria. How Ahaz was paying tribute. So one of the things I picked up on though, in what the verses Joe read, that he's in the line of David. Ahaz was, right? So he's in that line. So keep that in mind as we go through this, because that's another thing. Joash was sort of a miraculous. Remember, Joash, the way he became king was kind of miraculous because he was supposed to have been killed, right? But why was he spared? Obviously, it's obvious because he's in the line of, right? He's in the line that had to be preserved. So that's a big reason. That's the main reason why he was preserved and why his kingship was a miraculous event, even though he didn't turn out so great in the long run. But all right. So Isaiah now, his role in all this, he had a very important role because he was a prophet that in those times used to he warned Israel about their sin. And he said, if you keep rebelling, bad things are going to happen. God's going to punish you if you keep rebelling. But in this instance, in today's lesson, he's actually have a different role. He's going to have a role of encouraging, and Hezekiah, because we're going to look at something that happens that was extremely a very discouraging event that takes place that Hezekiah had no choice but to look to God for encouragement and for guidance on. And Isaiah was the one who provided God's word and encouragement in this situation. So, okay. So let's see. Hezekiah began his reign in the southern kingdom in roughly 726 BC. Let's see here. Okay, so the guy who at that time, the guy who was the king of the northern kingdom, a guy named, I don't know if any of you guys have heard this name before, and I think I said it. I practiced saying it enough times. I think I have it right. Sennacherib, I think. Sennacherib. He was the leader there, but we're going to see what happens with him. He was very arrogant. This guy Sennacherib was arrogant because they had a history, or they were able to dominate and conquer other countries. This northern kingdom and this guy Sennacherib. So they had sort of an arrogance about them. Think about it. When a country, we've seen this in our own recent history, World War I, World War II, when a country gets powerful, sometimes they become arrogant and they start trying to take over other countries. This is what this guy was doing. And his next target here in this lesson is going to be Judah, the southern kingdom. That's going to be his target here. But it's the way he goes about it is, it's just very inflammatory and very egregious. And, he just really tries to play on their minds and their fears and all this other kind of stuff. So, all right. So anyway, Sennacherib, who was the leader, he sends a delegation to down to Hezekiah, basically, to talk to him and things like that, and we'll see what actually happens there. But all right, so the lesson we're looking at today, we already read a little bit out of 2 Kings. We saw there's even more. There's a lot more about Hezekiah and Ahaz in the book of 2 Kings, but there's also stuff in there in 2 Chronicles and in the book of Isaiah. So 3 different places you can find this context, this text, I should say. All right, so let's see here. I think I wanted to read something here. Okay, so here's just some introductory questions to get started. So, very simple question, and I know it's early, but even though it's early and we might not be sharp yet, it's a question we should all be able to answer. What does prayer demonstrate? What does prayer not what are we seeking when we pray, but what does it actually demonstrate when we pray? I'm sorry? Faith, yes. Faith, yep. And faith, here's the answer I had here was trust and dependence on God. So it's the same thing. Same thing. It's demonstrating faith. Okay? And I mentioned how the significance of how Joash became the king. He was protected by God to preserve the lineage of David. We discussed what, Mike brought the whole lesson on this last week. What kind of king was Joash? He was great until while Jehoiada was alive. Then he turned to idolatry. All right, so we're going to look at another kind of king of Judah. We talked about Ahaz. Let's see here. I mentioned that already. So the first thing Hezekiah did when he became king. So when Hezekiah became king, was this while Ahaz was still alive, or was it after Ahaz died? I believe it was after he died. I in my notes here, I think he's already dead. But the first thing he did was to have the temple consecrated and restore worship practices, including Passover. The Bible links Hezekiah to David, so that's an important thing to remember. Let's see here. Okay, so we mentioned Sennacherib. All right, so here's the main text I want to look at today, and it's in Isaiah chapter 36. We're going to see what happens tried to give a little bit of introductory stuff about what's going to happen here, but now we can actually look at it in the book of Isaiah. So these other books, Second Kings and Second Chronicles, these are like history books, right? Pretty much, they kind of, that's what the word chronicle even means. It's a chronicling, it records. It's a recording of what happened. All right, so Isaiah, let's find the verse. Okay, anybody want to read a few verses? Kath, can you? We're in verse chapter 36. How much you can? I want to cover all the way to 22. Does anybody want to do half and half, or Kath can do half and then somebody else do the other half? No. Okay, so Kathy can do through 11, verse 11, and then Joel do 11 to 22. Do we have a microphone for Kathy? Oh, right up here? Okay. Which one, Rick? Hello. Good morning. Okay, thanks.
Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against the defenced cities of Judah and took them. And the king of Assyria sent Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem unto King Hezekiah with a great army. And he stood by the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. Then came the fourth unto him, Eliakim, Hilkiah's son, which was over the house, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah, Asaph's son, the recorder. And Rabshakeh said unto them, Say ye now unto Hezekiah, Thus said the great king, the king of Assyria, What confidence is this wherein thou trustest? I say, sayest thou, that they are but vain words. I have counsel and strength for war. Now in whom dost thou trust? That thou rebellest against me. Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed, on Egypt, whereon if a man lean, it will go into his hand, and the piece pierce it. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt, to all that trust in him. But if thou say to me, We trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah has taken away? And he said to Judah and to Jerusalem, Ye shall worship before this altar?
Okay.
Now therefore...
Oh, I'm sorry, Kath. Go ahead.
Now therefore give pledges, I pray thee, to my master the king of Assyria, that I will give thee 2,000 horses, if thou be able on thy part to set riders upon them. How then wilt thou turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put the trust on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? And am I now come up without the Lord against this land to destroy it? The Lord said unto me, Go up against this land and destroy it. Then said Eliakim and Shebna and Joah unto Rabshakeh, Speak, I pray thee, unto thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it, and speak not to us in the Jews' language, in the ears of the people that are on the wall.
Okay, before I get to verse 12, so let me see here. So you see what's going on right off the bat in verse 4. So this guy, this Rabshakeh, that was a title of somebody. I'm not sure if it was a name or a title of somebody, but he was one of the delegates sent to go speak to the people of Israel. And look at what he's saying. Like verse 4, it says, "Thus saith the great king of Assyria, what confidence is this wherein thou trustest?" So, like right off the bat, they're trying to get into their head about what God can really do for you. Do you really trust this king? Do you trust this king who trusts God? I mean, so what they're doing is they're just trying to basically demoralize them. That's what's going on here. They're trying to demoralize them. It's kind of like a psych ops kind of thing, which, as you can see, this has been going on in all of history. So this is basically an example of psychological operations. They're trying to demoralize people by saying, "How can you trust this king who's just gonna who just trusts in some god," and things like that? You know, that's basically what's happening here. They're trying to demoralize them and spread propaganda. So let's go, Joe, if you can pick it up in verse 12.
But Rabshakeh said, "Hath my master sent me to thy master, and to thee speak these words? Hath he not sent me to the men that sit upon the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own piss with you?" Then Rabshakeh stood and cried a loud voice in the Jews' language, and said, "Hear ye the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus saith the king, Let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, The Lord will surely deliver us. This city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Hearken not unto Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria, Make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me, and eat ye every one of his vine, and every one of his fig tree. Drink ye one of the waters of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to the land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Beware lest Hezekiah persuade you, saying, The Lord will deliver us. Hath any of the gods of the nations delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arphad? Where are the gods of Sepharim? And have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Who are they among all the gods of these lands that have delivered their land out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? But they held their peace and answered him not a word, for the king's commandment was saying, Answer him not. Then came Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, that was over the household of Shebna, the scribe, and Joah, the son of Asaph, the recorder, to Hezekiah, with their clothes rent, and told him the words of Rabshakeh.
Okay, so see, notice in so this was all going on. They were really badgering the people, really telling him, listen, if you stay with where you are, if you follow your king, you're gonna have a lousy life, this and that. Come with us, and you're gonna have the best food, the best drink. So they were really completely trying to undermine Hezekiah's authority and leadership. But the response was, and Hezekiah had already told them, don't respond, and they did obey that response, as you saw in verse 21. They held their peace and answered him not a word. So I want to break some of this down with some easy questions, which helps to kind of figure out what just happened here. So what is the general message of the Assyrian delegation? And it was this, that they told the people of Jerusalem, they came and told the people of Jerusalem that Hezekiah nor God can save them from the king of Assyria. Okay, so that was the general message that was delivered. So how did they try to plant doubt in the minds of the people of Jerusalem? They told them not to be deceived by Hezekiah's words. So in other words, they're already telling them, Hezekiah is going to tell you to trust God. They're getting ahead of it by saying, don't even listen to him when he says that. Don't even listen to Hezekiah. About trusting God. Anyway, all right. So what examples were used to discourage the people? And here's what they pointed out. They pointed out that other places that they had conquered, that their gods weren't able to help them. So what makes you think your God is going to be able to help you in this situation? So the Assyrians pointed that out during this time. So the people that were on the wall were sort of the audience, right, of what was happening. They mentioned the people on the wall. So if you were on that wall listening to what was being said, with this completely discouraging and demoralizing thing that was happening, what would you have thought? You know, put yourself in that situation. It would have probably been a very discouraging thing to hear, you know. And all right, and it's funny. Just to pause on that for a minute, is we deal with that kind of stuff all the time in different ways already, right? Like maybe not exactly as it happened here, but we deal with it in different ways. Like we might deal with it by media or by TV. We might see things on TV or media, or we might hear people say things that are designed to undercut our faith. Okay, and there's times and I'm going to be honest with you. I've told you this in the past. I've read books. I intentionally have read books that I knew that came from an atheistic standpoint, and I just read them because I want to see what they're saying. You know, what I mean, I want to what's being said here. And if you don't have discernment, if you don't have godly wisdom and discernment, you can easily fall for it. You really can, because in some ways they make somewhat logical arguments, but really at the end of the day, it really all comes down to creation in my view. I mean, in my view of everything, that all the arguments that they're going to throw against God and Christianity, they might be able to fool you into saying, well, see how this evolved into this and this. They might be able to fool you on that, okay? Because if you look at skeletons of an ape and a skeleton of a person, you might be able to see, you can see some similarities. But what it all comes down to is, how did we get here? How did we get here, number one? That's really the basis of it all. We got here because we were created. That's the only explanation that's the only feasible, it's the only explanation, because nothing else makes any sense whatsoever, you know? Like, I heard the simplest thing. There's a lot of ways to say it, but nothing can't create something. I don't know, you can say it a million different ways, but nothingness can't create something, So it's, all right. So the point is that if we're not, and in life, and one of the reasons it's important to be in church is because it helps us to stay connected to the Word and to stay connected with other believers, so that we can fellowship with each other, encourage each other. And by the way, another thing is, I think it's also important when we have fellowships is to make sure that it's Christ-centered. If we have church-related fellowships, whatever it may be, it needs to be Christ-centered. And I know it's easy to get away from that. My daughter and son-in-law, they were part of a church group. They were where they lived. And I had the conversation with them when we were spending time together, and we went to see the baby a couple months ago. And they're part of this small group, and I kind of was talking to them about it and things like that. And I guess what happened was, this small group that all formed because of being part of a church together. Well, a lot of these same people left that church for whatever reason. They had their reasons for it, but they stayed connected as a small group. But here's the thing: over time, even though it was a wholesome and nice group that they had, but they got away from the things of God. They got away from it being a Christ-centered group, and that's easy to happen. It can happen so easily, and so it's almost like we have to be intentional to make sure we keep that as part of what we do as Christians. All right, so. Did I mention this? The claim that was made by the Assyrians about the Lord: he's no more able to save Judah than any of the other gods of the countries. What was the sin? What was the name of the sin that the Assyrians were committing? Huh? pretty close. Yeah, blasphemy. They were blaspheming the sovereignty of God, basically. They were blaspheming God, his omnipotence, stuff like that. And what blasphemy is, it's wrongly using God's name, and they were denigrating the character of God, the Sennacherib. So, all right. So how did they respond? They didn't respond. Remember, they didn't respond verbally. But what outward sign? I think it's in verse 22. How did they respond? And this is important to see. Verse 22, I'll reread it, the end of it. The Hezekiah with their clothes rent, and they told them, so they rent their clothes. Okay, that was the outward symbol of grief and basically just turning over what was going on to God. It's almost like they're just, God, I'm yours. What can I do? It's just like it's almost like you're throwing yourself at God's mercy when you do that. You know, when you tear your clothes, you're like, Lord, there's nothing I can do. I can only do whatever I can do through you, through your power. And that's how they responded, by renting their clothes. Okay. All right. So at this time, keep in mind they had a lot of people. The Assyrian Empire, by the way, was a large empire, and in the people's mind, okay, in the people's mind. And this, by the way, you can almost like parallel this to Israel right now in some ways. Israel's kind of a small nation, size, geographically and stuff like that, and they're surrounded by people that hate them. You know what I mean? But yet, even though they're a small country, they still have a lot of power. They're a very powerful country for a country their size. But anyways, so that's the situation here. They were surrounded by the Assyrian Empire, which was a large empire at the time. And so there was a big intimidation factor involved. But here's why, as Hezekiah, this is why this really, the basis of this whole lesson is Hezekiah's faith. That's really the basis of so many of the lessons we do in the Bible. I remember one of the lessons we did about Moses, and if you look at Moses, Moses had no business escaping and leading all those people out of Egypt, right? If you just look at it from a logical standpoint, there's no way that should have happened. It was only because of his faith, trusting God, and God delivering them through. And that's really what's happening here as well. The Assyrian Empire was powerful. They had larger numbers, and they could have easily, overtaken them. All right, so okay. All right, so let's look at. Let's see here. I want to look at this because it's kind of interesting. So we read the account in Isaiah. Now, remember I mentioned there was 3 different places in the Bible where you'll find, information about this whole thing. Well, one of them is in 2nd Chronicles, and I want to take a quick look at it because there was something in there that's interesting that I want to look at. And I liked, I don't know about you guys, but when we read the Bible, sometimes we see things in there that don't, like, it's hard to understand sometimes. Like, what does this mean? So I came across something like that, and I wanted to look at it just out of curiosity. Let's look at it, and I want to hear what you guys think of it. So it's in. Let me find 2nd Chronicles. 2nd Chronicles, chapter 32. Let me find. I'll read this just to, because there's something I wanted to stop at one spot and just see what you guys think of it. All right. So, defeat of Sennacherib. So after all these things and the establishment thereof, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came and entered into Judah and camped against the fenced cities and thought to win them for himself. So let me just stop for a second. So this is almost like a different account almost. It's like it's the same thing, but it's explained differently. It's sort of laid out differently than the way it was laid out in Isaiah. You know what I mean? So, but it's the same thing. It's the same event, but it's just explained differently. So there's no contradiction. It's just a different point of view. It's just explained explain in a different viewpoint. So, all right. So when Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib was come and that he was purposed to fight against Jerusalem, he took counsel with his princes and his mighty men to stop the. Now, tell me if you guys ever heard this before. He took counsel with the princes and his mighty men to stop the waters of the fountains which were without the city, and they did help him. So there was gathered much people together who stopped all the fountains in the brook that ran through the midst of land, saying, "Why should the kings of Assyria come and find much water?" So it looked like that was, at the time, that was one of the strategies that was taking place, was to disrupt the water flow, you know. But anyways, you guys ever read that or see that? What do you think of it, Joe? Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's an interesting detail, is what I'm saying. You know, it's kind of an interesting that detail's put in there. All right. And he strengthened himself and built up the wall that was broken and raised it to the towers. Let's see. Verse 7, be strong and courageous, be not afraid nor dismayed, for the king of Assyria, for all the multitude that is with him, there will be more of us with him. I think, is this Isaiah talking? All right. So anyways, he's being encouraged that even though it's a large army, when you have God with you, you have more. So it doesn't matter how large their army is. It matters that your God's on your side, which makes your army more powerful. So why do you think at this point, considering that Israel has already rebelled and gone wayward, and so much so that they were punished, you know, prior to Hezekiah being there, that now God is kind of helping them? Why do you think? And it applies today, by the way. The question I'm asking right now applies to whatever we're going on, whatever's happening right now in our whether it's our personal lives, whether it's anything. You know what I mean? It's because Hezekiah threw himself at God's mercy, and he basically acknowledged, God, oh, I can't do anything without you. I need you. And that's, by the way, that's the same way we get saved, isn't it? The way we get saved is by acknowledging to God that we can't do it ourselves. We need you. We can't, you know, it doesn't matter how good I think I am or any of that stuff. None of it matters. All that matters is that, I mean, I'm a sinner, and it's only through your sacrifice and your love that I can be saved and accepted into your kingdom. That's kind of what happened here, is that Hezekiah had to throw his, you know, he was only able to put his trust in God at this point. And because of that, God delivered the message through Isaiah that you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? Assyria is going to be defeated. There was an army of 185,000 people that Assyria had, that which is a large army, okay? And it was in a supernatural thing took place through God that destroyed that army. And was the event that finally tipped it. So here it is. I answered the question before I asked it, but in what ways did Hezekiah demonstrate his dependence on God? And it's before Sennacherib's army approached, Hezekiah built the walls, but mainly he, as I said, he showed his dependence on God. That's what he did. That was what he did. So, okay, how did Hezekiah affirm God's omnipotence? He acknowledged that the gods. Okay, so here's the thing. So Hezekiah did acknowledge that, yeah, those other countries' gods couldn't help them, but our God is different. So he acknowledged that happened. So, okay, see here. Okay, I want to read one more passage here. Whoops. Out of Isaiah this time. 37. this is, I mentioned how Isaiah was instrumental in all of this, how what his role was. We know he was a prophet, right? But in this case, Isaiah was, his role here was to deliver God's word in the form, in encouragement, okay? He encouraged him. So I'll pick it up in verse 21. It says, Then Isaiah, the son of Amos, sent unto Hezekiah, saying, so he's delivering the word to Isaiah, or to Hezekiah. It says, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, whereas thou hast prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Assyria, this is the word which the Lord hath spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, hath despised thee and laughed thee to scorn. So he's basically acknowledging, look at this guy is mocking you, and at the same time he's mocking me as well, because you're trusting in me. Verse 23, Whom hast thou reproached and blasphemed, and against whom thou hast exalted thy voice and lifted up thine eyes on high, even against the Holy One of Israel? So he's right there, he's saying this is blasphemy. He's blaspheming the holy God. By the servants hast thou reproached the Lord, and hast said, By the multitude of my chariots am I come up to the height of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon. I will cut down the tall cedars. So he's basically listing, giving an account saying that he's going to be destroyed. Sennacherib is going to be destroyed here. Let me see here. Okay, so I'll just skip all the way down to verse 36. Then the angel of the Lord went forth and smote the camp of the Assyrians 185,000, which is 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed, went and returned, and dwelt at Nineveh. And it came to pass he was at worship in the house of Nisroch, his god, and Adrammelech, and Sharzar, his sons, smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia. So all this happened. The army was destroyed, and then Sennacherib was killed by his own sons. So that's what happened. To make a long story short, there, which like I said, it's a supernatural event that happened. I think if you read into it, the way it happened, and I didn't get a time to totally delve into it, is some confusion was caused, which caused some people to fight against each other and kill each other. But all right, let's see here. So just to summarize all this, God was willing to answer Hezekiah's prayer because he acknowledged that God was the only hope that they had. Okay, so the thing, remember I mentioned how an interesting word that applies to God, which is really cool, because sometimes we see today how people, I see it all the time, and you guys do too, how people tell you what God said to them, and they almost like, I guess people believe whatever they want to believe about who God is, what God wants for us. If somebody, don't you see this all the time? When somebody wants something bad enough, they'll just flat out say to you, well, God wants this for me. But really, it's what they want, and they want to justify it by saying God wants this. We just had a friend of the family, pretty sad story here real quick, but a friend of the family, I don't know them personally, but somebody told me the story. And this lady, she got suckered into a romance scam. And the guy that was scamming her kept using godly terms, like trying to, it's God's will for this and this, that, all these things to happen, right? Well, long story short, this lady fell in love with this person, even though she never met him. And it turns out, over time, he kept giving little sob stories or things, and she kept dishing out money. So she ended up, over the course of 3 years, I think she shelled out about $50,000. And now she finally realizes it was a scam after 3 years. But the point was, is the person scamming you was using God, trying to justify saying God wants us to be together, things like that. people can use God in ways that's completely wrong, and that's why it's important. Even Christians fall into that, by the way. Even we as Christians will, if we want a career, if we want a certain job, if we want this, we tend to justify by saying that's what God wants for me. But really, is it really what God wants for us? I don't know. I think time tells, right? Like time will let us know. God is immutable. What's that word immutable? Immutable mean? Anybody know what that word means? It sounds like a big word, but it's not really a big deal. He's unchanging. He's an unchanging God. So the things about God back then are the same today. So the point with that, me saying that is this: is we can't make God who we want God to be. God's not what we want him to be. God is. We have to conform to God's will, not get God to conform to our will. You know. So in our lives, do we depend on God in difficult situations, or do we depend on our own skill, our own knowledge, our own resources? By the way, so when we pray, okay, I wanted to make this one last point, and then I'll be done. Is this? So when we pray, we know we're supposed to pray to be to be in God's will, right? Whatever that is. And it may not always be what we want it to be. But one of the things the way God delivers us, so can God deliver miracles in our lives? Yes. Will he deliver a miracle for everything we ask for? Of course not. But one thing that we can count on, especially in a difficult situation in our life, is if we go to God in prayer, even if we have a desired outcome and that desired outcome doesn't come to pass, that God will give us the peace in our heart that'll allow us to deal with whatever's going on. And that's really more important than anything, you know what I mean, is to have the peace and the contentment and the knowledge and the faith and trust to know that whatever the outcome is, it's in God's hands. And, okay, I think that's about it. I mean, there's more stuff, but, I think we're out of time, so. All right, you guys, I'll wrap it up. Lord God, we love you, Lord. We just thank you for the lessons that we can learn, which are endless, Lord, in the Bible, of all the things that, even though they happened a long time ago, that they apply to us today. And Lord, help us to seek your will in our lives and to not trust worldly wisdom, not to trust our own intelligence, our own strength, our own resources, Lord, but to trust solely on you for what we need in our lives. We just pray for today's Sunday morning service, Lord, that we pray for the preacher, that he'll deliver your word, Lord, that the Holy Spirit will move in this room today. I thank you and I praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.